Hey, welcome back to the Ready State. One of the things that we see in the rehab corrective exercise language is something called the push-up plus, right? I get into a push-up position and then I push up. And the original idea was, hey, how do I get better function out of potentially this serratus, which attaches to the scapula, helps rotate the scapula out of the way so that I have less impingement. So that was one of the thinking around the serratus. Clearly, we're looking for, do I have control of the shoulder blade, and can I use my shoulder blade as a shock absorber on the system, okay? But what's interesting is that when oftentimes we get into push-up plus, if you look at people's elbows in this position, their elbows flare out, and what's really happening is that they're defaulting in this angry cat position, right? Even in a push-up, they're defaulting into these internally rotated positions. And so what's happening is that we've negated the conversation about rotation into this language. So if we're trying to restore function and normalize function, we've got to be talking about the rotation in the system through. So whether you're an FRC person, whether you're doing all Pavel stuff, it doesn't matter what the language is. Everyone who's worth their salt has got to be talking about rotation, and they do. So one of the things that we're looking at is how do we cue this rotation? And you know that a lot of the rotational cues that we see, elbow going away, are, hey, these are athletes moving away from sort of mechanically more congruent, more rotationally stiff functional positions. Armpit forward, break the bar, all the cues that we see. So if we take this break the bar idea into a push-up plus, really what we're seeing is, hey, I've got to be accounting for this rotation. And those old strength coaches have said things like, I like the bench press, it ties the arm to the body. What do they mean? They meant that kids who could break the bar tackled with thumbs up and had better rotational kinematics. They could create better, more stable functional positions. As we fatigue, we go out. So let me give you a couple examples of ways to upgrade this. Now, first of all, we tend not to do a lot of push-up plus kinds of things when we're in rehab. Instead, because the reason we do that is because this is in what we call a closed torque environment. So the person can create stability in strange positions off of the floor or off of a barbell. So what we tend to do is we make it a little bit more difficult. So it's not an accident then suddenly you see the use of things like kettlebells, and one of the reasons that the kettlebell and the Turkish getup is such a wonderful motion is that here I am in a spine supported position, right, where I don't have to worry about trunk stability, so I can add that in later on, but I can quickly see, is the thumb backwards? So in this position, here's my thumb in, that's an elbow flared, but as soon as I put that thumb straight back into this position, I now am forcing this rotation through the arm so that I can now do my elevation and depression through these motions, and you can see what's going on. So I should see people moving towards this more end range isometric here, and then being able to manage, depress, elevate, retract. Depression is that direction, so we'll call this, protraction, retraction in this shape for the anatomy nerds. Thumb is backwards though, and I'm looking for, can I keep that thumb engaged backwards? Armpit is going that direction, and more importantly, you're seeing that the rotation's actually happening. It's not just happening at the wrist, which is where we see so much compensation. One of the reasons this musculature fascial system is not inclined to work very well is that it's not in these shapes where it has maximum mechanical advantage. So the first part of the Turkish getup of this elevation, get the hand as high as you can, maintain that this whole time, right? We're looking at, hey, here's another version of being able to put that serratus into context in some of these motions where I'm able to work on building stability through here by being able to have that independent motion. Okay, Turkish getup, you know it. Let me show you a couple other of my favorites. Our rotation primers are another good example. Band is set up. Now I'm having to weight bear, and instead of just being in a closed chain plank-like position, I'm now having to express this rotation. Grab the thumb under the band, create this rotation. Can I have that control, I can work on the rotation independently and then do the push-up plus. I can even do it with both hands simultaneously if that's what I'm interested in. But what's nice is I can really quickly see if people have this rotation. What you'll see is that people can't rotate. That's the problem. It's not necessarily that they can't get into a cat-like push position, but they can't create the rotation in that system. And you can buy them all the slack they need so that they can create it at an appropriate level. Can I create this rotation? Can I move that scapula independently on the body? And then can I recreate that rotation in a whole host of places? That makes sense. Sometimes it works just as well, again, to be in this open torque system where I've noticed that we're doing a lot of this in long lever, arms straight, and what we're doing is getting off of the closed chain environment to a kettlebell, into a band, have to create all the rotation organically at the shoulder. I can even get underneath and do the same drill with this time spine supported. So I can be working on creating a little rotation and then I can elevate and depress without having to manage a large load. So this is a little bit more less sketchy, not that a light Turkish getup is sketchy, but this allows me to create hard resistance and then push this position without having to always manage the load through my kind of stabilizing torso, so I don't have to stand up. So this might be a different version if I was starting out. Hey, we might do some push-up plus in this position before we hand them the weight, before we stood up. But don't forget, all of this comes back to a lot of the training implements that we are already using in our gym. The gymnastics rings, the straps. One of the nice things about being on this duo is that it's easy for me to see what's going on with the hand because of what's going on with the straps. So as people get into this, you'll see that as soon as we take the ground stability away, they will tend to find that position. And that's one of the reasons they're impinging, is they can't recruit well in this shape. Teaching this rotation and then being able to press and retract into this position actively is why this is a crucial gymnastics position that they spend a lot of time blocking and developing. So push-ups, planks, holds in this shape to get these systems turned on is all about rotation. So suddenly, instead of just getting people on the ground doing angry cat, we can really cue their rotation capacity, get the rotation cued back on and the context of that, put it back into bench press, put it back into things we care about. But suddenly you've got a whole lot of tools, but if you're not looking at the rotation, you're missing the point. Hopefully this is an easy way to upgrade some of the work you're already doing. Prioritize that rotation, especially as we're trying to reclaim function and improve function. See you next time.